Okay, here we go. All right, there come the participants. Hello, hello, hello. Here we are. I believe we are all live right now. And welcome to this free virtual forum for everybody who is there. There we go. Here come the people. Here come the people. Well, virtually. They're little icons. This is now our third virtual forum. And I've been excited about all of them, but I am especially excited about this group right here because for me right now, I am very intrigued by the mind. I'm very intrigued by emotions. I'm very intrigued by the way all of that is working in our current climate. And for me as an acting coach, I think anybody will tell you who's worked with me a lot. I am as much helping with the personal development and the human being as I am the actor. And the three people I have right here, I believe are wonderful helpers of the human being. And I think we are in a time right now where the human, the psyche, the heart, the everything is in a little bit of confusion and could use some clarity maybe, and if not even clarity, just a perspective that could work or might not work. But I definitely, I am just so excited to have the three of you here. I am joined by three wonderful people who are all just fantastic at what you do. And you all do a little variety of things as well. And so what we'll do is we are going to introduce each of you. We'll kind of go around my little mosaic, which below me would be Pam and then David and then Brittany. In my little four, I don't know what your four thing is like, but we'll introduce each of you guys, and you guys can just tell us a little bit about who you are, and then maybe something fun or interesting about you. I always like that. I always like where something fun or interesting that we wouldn't necessarily know. Let's see. I could start. And my name is Erik, by the way, for any of you who don't know who I am, which is quite possible, I guess. I am Erik Lingvall. I'm the founder of Catapult Acting Studios. I am an acting coach, and I instruct classes. And our focus is professional level training designed to create better people. And so tonight we are going to be getting intentional with some really, really great human beings here. And I'm going to introduce each of them. But first, let's see, something interesting about me. If I were not an acting coach, I would almost undeniably be a chef. I love to cook. I love working with food, and it's in my bloodline. My great-grandfather was the head chef of the Ritz-Carlton in New York City. So there we go. There we go.
So great.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I did not know that either.
There we go. So next up is someone who I have known some time now and who's gotten to know me quite well too, which I guess is sort of the purpose of a coach, is to sort of learn about who you are. And I look forward to learning even more about you tonight. I would like to introduce Pam Dunn. Hello, Pam Dunn.
Hello, Erik Lingvall and everybody here. So who am I and what do I do? I'm a coach. I'm an author. I'm a people lover. I love to help people discover, honor, and express their magnificence or their unique contribution, or just really dig in and identify and be who they truly want to be in the world. So I do that in lots of different ways, and I like to offer lots of different avenues for that. So something interesting about me is if I were not owning a company, life coaching, I'm going to go with that one, I would be an actor.
Oh, yeah?
I would. When I was applying for colleges in high school, I had a full ride scholarship for theater. And I had a dream that I was going to win a Tony, not for dramatic theater. That was my dream when I was a young girl. And now I get to be in front of people in a different way.
Yes. There's a lot of dramatic elements to your job. Very much.
There are.
Probably more so than even
right.
if
and I can pinpoint when somebody's acting and when they're being real.
Right. Yes. Well, yes. Well, speaking of actors, our next friend. Well, that's funny. Is all of us have that in common. We all. That was an initial thing, and for you, Brittany, it still is a thing. David, I know that was your life for some time, and so.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So the next person here I would like to introduce is my friend who I have known now for quite some time, through the times when he had a beard, through the times when he did not have a beard, now back to not having a beard. And I always like to say, yeah, David, you put spirituality in a way that makes it so intriguing, entertaining, and very palpable. And so with that, David Ault. Hello, my friend.
Hello, my name is David Ault, and I just stepped away from being the spiritual director here in Atlanta at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. I have a doctorate in theology, and that was after my life as an actor, or integrating into those two things, basically focusing on the philosophical aspect and the science aspect of the energy of thought and mind. And so that's been something that's always intrigued me. And I got started in that field many years ago as a singer for a woman named Louise Hay. And I think there are people across the world who know Louise, as she founded Hay House and was an inspirational writer and speaker. And she was sort of my second mom, and we toured together a lot in the 80s. And I was in the first spiritual New Thought boy band called Alliance. And so Louise Hay gave us our big break.
That's amazing.
That's wonderful.
So something you don't, well, Erik spilled the beans. Yes, I was an actor for many years, but my first couple of gigs when I moved to New York City straight out of college, the first one was an off-Broadway production at a place called St. Bart's, which was next door to the Ritz-Carlton. So if I had known and had a premonition that one day I would meet you, I could have gone over there and maybe gotten a free meal because I was really hungry. And gosh, I was thinking off the top of my head, fun fact, my first job on a soap opera, my hair and makeup person was also the assistant for Mary Tyler Moore. And so he snuck me into her apartment one time when she was out of town. And all of the episodes from the Dick Van Dyke Show all the way through the Mary Tyler Moore Show, she had all of them, each episode leather bound on this magnificent bookcase. And I remember taking them off of the shelf and opening them, and all the stage directions were handwritten in there. So I was a thief. No, I was a snooper, a professional snooper. So.
I love that. I love that. Wow, that's so fun. I love all these fun facts. Well, okay, next, speaking of actors, one of us who actually is acting currently, and that's why I know you. This lovely human being, you came into Catapult years ago now, years ago. It's pretty wild to even think about the fact that Catapult's been around for years. And our very first studio, which was quite different than our current studio, we were joking about it. Brittany came in because she would tape auditions with us, still does. And we didn't even have a wall in the taping room. So there was a partition, but if you walked in, you basically, everyone had to be quiet when the actor was doing their scene. And there would be times where the actor's yelling and crying, and you're like, hey, did you get that email out to someone? And there's just literally on the other side of the partition, this actor just emotionally, and then they'd walk around and be like, hey, good job. That sounded great. So it was wonderful when we got doors. Doors were great. So that was wonderful. Progression, right? So yeah, and you are a yoga instructor, and we even combined the two at one point. Did that yoga for actors, which it sounds like you've done more of. So anyway, with
Yeah.
that, Wilkerson. Hello, Brittany Wilkerson.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. This is so inspiring, and I mean, selfishly, I need it. I feel like just as much as everyone who's tuning in here. I'm an actor and I'm a yoga teacher, and I've been doing both of those things for, I think, probably about 13 years. I've found them to be really a nice mix for me, because when acting, the business gets crazy and things might get out of perspective, yoga really brings me back to what's important, and I can bring that into my acting. So yeah, and I mean, the thing that I like about both of those things is just the way that it reminds me of our shared humanity. So we get to portray so many different versions of what it is to be human, so many different stories. And that's kind of a through line with yoga as well, just that we're all connected. So they seem to fit well for me. And what's a fun fact about me? Well, my first job was in New York City, and I was the princess at FAO Schwartz, and they kept the princess dress in a locker, and they never cleaned it. I'm sorry, they're closed now, so it's okay. I can say this information. But that was my first job, and I walked around FAO Schwartz and talked in a British accent and wore a princess dress, and I thought it was the greatest that could be my day job. So.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. All right. That's so fun that some of our fun facts were being actors, and your fun fact was being a princess and being. That's great. I love that. One of our instructors actually, she has a side gig where she does the princess thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And goes to parties and what have you. And so lately they've been hiring them on Zoom. So the kids will come and they'll have all the different kids, and then suddenly Elsa pops up and she's got her whole little spiel. And what's great is she'll reach out to me when she's in the full garb, and she'll say, hey, does Venice want to see Elsa? And so she'll throw her on the FaceTime. So it's so cool. Really cool. Okay. So we were talking, and we thought, since we're going to be getting intentional here today, let me do this. Since we're going to be getting intentional here today, we thought it would be really nice to start with just sort of a grounding, a moment to just get present. Let's get intentional with just where we are with our breath. And so David, so we'll all, if you guys want to mute yourselves, and then anyone out there, if you would like to just find a comfortable spot wherever you are, as comfortable as you can be within your seclusion. I've been calling it seclusion instead of quarantine lately, by the way. I just shifted that. I thesaurused it. I was like, seclusion. Seclusion sounds nice. So wherever you are in your seclusion, if you want to just take a moment, and David's just going to walk us through just a little meditation grounding thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's obvious that breath equals life. And what's fascinating about breath is that it's infinite in supply, and yet we can make something that's infinite finite by holding our breath, or by being unconscious and just breathing very shallow. And so for the sake of the now moment, I'm going to ask you to get intentional with your breath. And one of the easy ways to do that is a very simple mathematical equation, and that is to breathe in on a count of 3, and breathe in deeper than normal, hold for 2, and then release for 5. So breathe in for 3, hold for 2, and release for 5. So let me walk you through a couple of times. So together, breathing in, hold, and release. And with that formula, go ahead and find your own rhythm and begin to breathe in for 3, hold for 2, and release for 5. And as you establish that rhythm, that intentionality in your breath, you can add a little something to it. And that is, when you breathe in what it is that you want, whether it's peace of mind, whether it's an answer, whether it's more joy, whether it's health for you or your family or the world. I want you to breathe that in. And then on the exhale, just say to yourself, I release all resistance. So breathing in with the awareness of what it is that you do want, hold, and then say to yourself, I release all resistance. And again, do that for a couple of times. If your mind wanders, just gently go back to the exercise, breathing in what you do want. A couple of times more. And as you return to breathing normal, perhaps with your eyes closed, know that what you've done is you have breathed your body. You have intentionally breathed your body rather than your body breathing you. And you are at liberty to do that at any given time, whenever you find yourself holding your breath, whenever you feel fear or anxiety, to just breathe in on a count of 3, hold for 2, and release for 5. That brings you into the now moment. It releases you from all futurizing. And it is in this now moment that is the most fertile soil of creating, and creating intentionally. And you and I are designed to do that. And so we give ourselves permission, and we give thanks for that breath of life. And one more time, together, breathing in on a count of 3, holding for 2, and just release all resistance. And as we say, and so it is.
It is. Oh, that was wonderful. That was very wonderful. Could you guys hear my little meditation music in the back? I'm not sure. Is that coming through a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. As my daughter said, just a little bit. Just a little bit. I just want a little bit. I love it. God, I love her so much. Oh gosh, so fun. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. First and foremost, I think it's really, I love the fact that I personally have this forum to connect with people. I love the fact that so much of my focus in the acting room is really just about helping others dive in deep, have breakthroughs, feel what they're feeling. I like to say, as an actor, you need to really feel what you're feeling for real. And all that stuff is just so relevant to life. And that's why I love this specific forum that we're doing today, because if you are not intentional in the acting world, if you do not have intention and it's not specific, it doesn't work. We don't know what you're doing. And if we can't understand you as an actor, we don't know what's happening, we can't connect with you. And so connection, it's just this word. It's this word that, well, first of all, the moment you walk into Catapult, there's a huge sign that says connect. It says, let go, own the moment, connect. And it's sort of this, it's this 3-step, let's see, hold on one second. It's this 3-step acting philosophy that we have. And so with that said, connection. We are in a time right now where connection is it's almost needing to be redefined It's almost needing to it's like connection is, it's just different now. It's different, right? I mean, our connection is, everything is different. Even you know, when I went for a run today, and there's other people out there, and we are all there, but it is a very clear distance we are separating ourselves from one another with. It's very intentional, right? Our intentional disconnection is there right now. And so I think for us, obviously in this virtual world, we are finding ways to connect. And in fact, I thought it would be a fun little exercise tonight when I'm journaling to talk about 10 things that wouldn't have happened without this isolation. And there's I can already think of a few. I mean, this right now, maybe it would have, but it definitely did because of this isolation. I've had some really wonderful opportunities. I connected with my cousins the other night for the first time we have ever connected as adults, all together in one space outside of maybe like my Nana's 80th birthday many years ago. So there are some things that are kind of, it's like these, I always think of things metaphorically, but it's like this garden where suddenly it doesn't get any of the stuff that it got. So the garden's sitting there, but now these other things are growing, and you're like, and at first it looks, I think it looks really dark. It's like you're like, ugh, that's an ugly garden. And then you're kind of looking at this garden, and then you're like, but wait a minute, there's some cool things that maybe are growing in this dark garden. And then if we're kind of open to seeing it. So my curiosity with the three of you, the first thing that I would like to ask is, what are your thoughts on connection in regards to our current situation that we're in? And in a time where there are a lot of people feeling disconnected, understandably, what are some things, what are maybe, whether it be exercises, philosophies, perspectives, it could even be recommended readings, you know, something, podcast, whatever it is, things that you feel like we can do, where anyone could do on a regular basis every now and again to feel more connected. And obviously outside of the normal thing, but I'm curious about that from your perspectives, and just kind of what your perspective on connection right now, and what that means. So anyway, I'll whoever would like to start with that can start with that.
I'm willing to start.
Okay, Pam.
So as I was listening to you, I'm thinking, you know, that was probably one of the biggest things for me at first during this process, because I'm alone. I live by myself. And I'm used to being around people a lot. And so one of the first days in this process, I came across this quote. And this quote said, even though I'm by myself, I'm not alone. And I thought, well, that's cute. You know, but the thing was, is I had not, and the reason why I only thought it was cute and kind of brushed it off was because I had not yet connected with myself and my own feelings and my own ideas and thoughts about what was going on. You know, I only focused on the fact that, oh, my work was slowing down, or I couldn't travel anymore, or I couldn't see my granddaughter or my kids, or, you know, like I started focusing on what I couldn't have. And then, you know, thank goodness I listened to my own advice once in a while. And that's what I did. So I started listening to myself and just acknowledging what I was feeling. And that's when the creativity came in, that I realized, you know, yeah, I'm by myself, but I am not alone, not in any way, shape, or form. I just have to redefine what not alone means. So not alone means doing stuff like this, reaching out on the phone, going to see my mom from 10 feet away, every once in a while. So there's lots of creativity, but also recognizing that, hey, I'm a pretty cool person to be with too, by myself.
I love, I love the way you referenced it though, where you said, where when you realize that you were by yourself, but you're not alone, and you're like, oh yeah, that's cute.
Moving right along.
But I think that's great, right? I think it's sometimes we have these little moments, and we go, if we acknowledge them though, and we're aware of them, and we actually sit in them for a moment. Sometimes it is little things like that might just kind of be like a cute little thing that can have a profound impact on us.
Yeah, I think the key has been to consciously connect with myself or connect with yourself. And then there's a more genuine connection over a screen or over a phone call.
Right. That's wonderful. I love that. That's great. Okay. Yeah. And so I want to keep moving on. One thing I wanted to let you guys know, some of you guys are chatting, and I wanted to remind everyone that if you have questions right now, because we've got a lot of participants, feel free to ask them and put them in the Q&A. We have Grace who's going to be going through the Q&A. So there's the little Q&A icon on the bottom, and just click and just say, hey, here's my question for everyone or for one person individually. And yeah, and then when you fire them in there, we'll put them in the queue and then hopefully get to as many questions as we can. So great. Yeah. So thank you, Pam. Yeah, I love that. The connecting with yourself first and foremost. I think that is such an important thing. And I think that's, again, as an acting coach, I'm always relating it to acting, but I really do believe that if you don't know who you are, it is really hard to bring a character to life or know, I'm not saying we need to completely figure out who we are, but you got to have an awareness of that. And that's great. Okay, cool. All right. Who else would like to, Brittany, did you say you wanted to?
I'll share. My experience has been, I'm naturally a people person. I'm naturally an extrovert. I love connecting with people. And that was really strong for me in the beginning. And some days it still is, wanting to just teach a yoga class or get on a Zoom call. Like one day I did 4 of them. And I was like, okay, maybe that was enough. But today I felt really a little overwhelmed by what's going on. And that was my question today, was how, connecting with myself, what do I need today to, because I felt kind of powerless about everyone else that I can't connect with like this, or the people I don't even know, that are going through hard times. And really what helped me was turning to one of my meditation teachers, Tara Brach, talks a lot about widening the circle of compassion. And she's a wonderful resource. You can find her all kinds of places on the internet and apps and stuff. But just this idea of using your prayer, your meditation, whatever it is that is your spiritual practice, to energetically hold compassion for people we don't even know, or the people who are on the front lines doing this work in hospitals, that it is really powerful when we have an intention that's coming from the heart to widen that compassion for the world right now. And that really helped me, even though I don't know everyone out there that's struggling. But she talked about this phrase, I wrote it down. It's so simple and I wrote it down, but this phrase that we are friends, that when you're holding space for even a stranger, someone that's like in a neutral place for you, you don't know them that well, that you can use that phrase, we're friends. Because I think that for me and for a lot of us, this event that's happening right now in the world has created more connection in that way, to just people in New York, people in China, people we don't even have a personal relationship with. So I think for me, finding those practices that help me to feel connected and like I'm sharing something positive, even if it's not a direct action, it's the energetic prayer or gift or meditation, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I love that. I come back to this quote. Just to paraphrase it though, I mean, where Mr. Rogers says, in times where you feel like you can't do anything, look for the helpers. Mm-hmm. And gosh, Fred Rogers, man, what an amazing human being, right? I just, so much, what a spiritual teacher. So lucky as a kid growing up with him. I mean, but I love that concept too of just, what can you do? I mean, we can do whatever we can. I've always loved this concept of start with one. Just start with one, right? I mean, just like anything, for any habit, of course, it's, sort of cliche, but like every journey starts with a first step. But it's when we get how am I going to do everything? Trust me, mm-hmm. As somebody like that's me. How can I let me just give it all out. And I know often for me in situations like this, there's so many people, even just within our circle of Catapult, from mm-hmm. the clients to the staff, to myself, to my wife, to now our relationship with the government and the money that they are sending our way. It's like, even within this, it's just crazy. And then I think for me, when there are all these things happening, it's such a wonderful thing to just come to one. What's one thing I can do? I can reach out to my dad. So my dad joined me in my Zoom workshop, which was hilarious. I had 25 students. And the best part was somebody commented and said, "Hey, there's a line through your face." And I was like, "Who said there's a line through my face?" And then my dad went, "It was me, son." And I went, "Oh, that's hilarious." So anyway, my dad talked to the students just a little bit about, because it was all about your mindset and how to sort of view the situation. But it was wonderful, and it was like, that was one thing. That was just one thing, adding my dad to the Zoom. And it had, obviously it's still impacting me now, right? And so I love this concept when we're feeling so disconnected, to figure out how we can come to this one. So Barbara Kerr says, cliches are cliches for a reason. They carry a large, complex thought in a few words. Well, thank you, Barbara. I feel better about all my cliches now. David Ault, not to be cliche, but did we save the best for last? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, to Barbara Condon's quote, cliches are cliches, but cliches become cliches because they're truths that are spoken over and over and over again, and truths are simple. But to piggyback on what Brittany was talking about, what she beautifully described is the Buddhist practice of Tonglen. And Tonglen is to sit and with the heart open, you consume or you eat the anxiety of those that need to have that anxiety relieved. And then you transmute that anxiety through your open heart. And so to do something like that towards all of those who are the essential workers in our world, to do that for hospital staff, is really, really a classic example of connection that we don't even consider. So when we're talking about connection in this forum right now, we're talking about physical connection, thinking that or believing that the physical connection is the end-all be-all utmost. And yet connection is thought, connection is energy, and something, again, that was being talked about, this act of Tonglen, is an indescribable form of connection where you open yourself up to the pain and the ills of the world, not to take it on for yourself, but to be cauterizing fire that transmutes it, so that those people can have a place to leave that on some metaphoric altar. And that, to me, is a rich, complex, beautiful, sincere, integrous way to connect with everybody. And you don't need to leave your bedroom or your sanctuary or your office or whatever it might be for you. So connection is more than just physical connection. And if we don't know that, I have this theory that we're evolutionary beings by nature, and the things that we either try to avoid, or our fear of the pause, or our fear of isolation, or whatever the fear is, lean into the fear. Because by leaning into the fear, you're going to uncover things about yourself and uncover truths that you and I have been running away from. So yes, there is a physical distancing that is prohibiting that form of connection. But what if that's inviting us to lean into exploring other forms of connection?
I love that. Two wonderful things that happened just now. I saw Kim, who's a client of mine, and her daughter I work with a lot. She said, "Perfect love casts out fear." And I love that. I love perfect love. I also love the concept of feeling whole, perfect, and complete just the way you are. Pam, you talk a lot about magnificence and seeing your magnificence. So, you know what's hilarious, guys? Right as I saw that, I clicked on that quote, and right above it, someone said, "I'm still here, Erik." And I'm like, who is that? It was my dad again.
Oh, that's amazing.
Hi, Dad. Yeah, that's pretty cool. The virtual world. Yeah, that's so great. I love that with all these different forms of connection, and again, different sort of ideas of what connection really is, what connection means. Yeah, I mean, I think that is so important right now. As far as some of the questions here, so this is interesting. So this was a question that asked, how do you deal with your emotions when you have a family member on the front lines? And I guess this would sort of be in alignment with David, what you were talking about, where they are dealing with the virus. And I know I know a few people who are in that situation, whether it be they're medical workers or what have you, while still concentrating on your own needs. And I guess sort of that concept is, I mean, my at least my perspective on that is sort of how do we find that balance to help those and support those around us when it's challenging enough to find our own personal support. And so, yeah, I'm curious about that for you guys. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll go again. I always have something to say about something.
Good. Well, you're a panelist, so this is a wonderful time. And we've got plenty of time to talk, and we've got lots of ideas to talk about. So, yes.
Well, I was thinking about the question in that, being concerned and worrying about family members, and then also worrying about their own needs being met. And the similarity of both being the worry. And what I know about worry is that it strips us of our ability to be creative, to think creatively, to discover what it is we could actually do, to even think of things like Tonglen in that moment if we're worrying, because that takes up so much energy. So I think that, I've always found that whatever I'm worrying about, I'm worrying because I care. And if I focus rather than on the worry about what I care about, then I'm going to have a few more ideas. And caring about people meets our needs innately. So I'll just stop right there.
I think, and by the way, guys, I just want to point this out. Please feel free to dive in deeper with some of these ideas, because I think, Pam, what you said right there is really important in regards to worry as well. And it's kind of like this concept of it's very hard for me to be free to do what I want to do if my body isn't stretched, if I'm here, if I'm tight, if I'm tense, right? That's why with actors, we're constantly just loosening up in whatever way we can, whether it's their body or their mouth or their thoughts even. Allow your thoughts, whatever comes, stream of consciousness. That's why an exercise I love to do is we're working on a scene and I'll just say, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it different, do it faster, get it out. And it's not even for the sake of any of those takes or any of those ways of saying the lines are the right way. It's just to sort of get this stuff out there. And I think from an emotional place, worry is that thing that I feel like it's like the emotional equivalent to having a cramp. It's like it tightens it up and you're just like, oh gosh, and you want to go in here. And so when you talk about that though with worry, where actually it's because you care, that's such an interesting shift right there. I'm sure a lot of people would be curious though, how would they go about that, or what would be something when they're in that place of worry? What are some things that maybe you feel like?
Well, I have a niece who's a nurse in San Diego and working on a COVID floor. And my sister and myself, we have been worried many times, and what I do for myself when I find myself worrying about her is that I switch it to how much I love her. I focus on how amazing she is, and that the strength it's taking for her to do this. So even you'll notice it in some of the clips on television and stuff. People are focusing on, the hero part of what people are doing, and that allows for the worry to go away. And it doesn't mean that you're not concerned. It just means that you're focused on strength and care. And that's what you're projecting then, rather than worry. And that's the strength that they need from us now, is that not our worry. They need our love and our care.
Yeah. And actually that's really interesting. Shifting it to what they need. Right? Instead of making it about ourself and our worry. It's interesting, isn't it? Like, I'm just so worried about you. Like, I'm just thinking of that from a personal place. That doesn't feel good.
Exactly.
It's like, well, stop. Don't.
Yeah, it says I'm weak.
Yeah.
It implies I'm weak.
Right.
That's not the intention, but it implies that.
Or that this is not going to work out, or and I think that's such an interesting thing, is to take that worry and think about the thing that we are worrying about, and then go, would this worry benefit that? I mean, if my worry is about this person and it's about caring about this person, am I caring about this person in the best way I can by worrying? And obviously then I would say we're not.
And Erik, we touched on this on the Instagram live thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but I've been destigmatizing worry for several years now. And the way that I do that is I say, stop classifying it as a trigger. Stop looking.
Oh yeah. Actually, David, if you could, I know.
I love that.
Yeah. Some people saw that on Instagram. I mean, obviously people did, but everything you said there, please do not feel any sense of redundancy, because we have a lot more people that are watching us right now who are intently watching us. And I would love for you to chat about that a little bit more.
It boils down to, I believe that everything is for us and not against us. Everything is an opportunity to learn or to expand. And so if that's true, if I'm going to adhere to that, then something as stigmatized as worry is also here for us. And so it's been classified as something that triggers us. And so I say, by definition, what is a trigger? And a trigger is usually something that picks at an old wound, something that opens up something uncomfortable, that can be paralyzing. It can bring on emotional trauma and sorrow. But what if worry isn't a trigger? If everything's working for us, what if worry is a signal? And when you think of that in terms of polarity, you and I truly only worry about something, the loss of something that we've had an experience of. So as I mentioned in the Instagram Live example, there's a flood in a gymnasium in a high school in Indiana, and all of the uniforms are moldy and they can't be used, and there's no funds in the budget to replace them. So all of those affected by that are worried about where the money's going to come. But you don't wake up in the morning worried about that because it's not on your radar. We don't worry about some event happening across the world in a country that we can't pronounce because it hasn't infiltrated our awareness system yet. So we worry about things that we have an awareness of and about things that we've had. The worry comes then from losing something that we've had, right? And so when most people worry about money, they worry about money because they have an experience of some form of sufficiency. And so if we're worried about a loved one in the throes of being in the front line of COVID-19, it's because we have an experience of them being safe. We have an experience of connecting with them and expressing our love, and there being an exchange of that love, whether it be through gesture or whether it be through words. And so we become afraid then of losing something that we've had. And so worry can be then just a reminder. It can be a signal. What is a signal by nature? It's a guidepost. It's a sign that's saying, hey, you might want to stop going that way and go this way. It's a training of the mind. And so worry can be a gift if we take the stigma off. So if I catch myself worrying about that loved one, I can pause and I can say, what have I had with that loved one? And I can, as Pam said, I can conjure up how I feel about them. I can redirect that focus on how much I love them and the beautiful qualities that they are. That's one component. That's going to be far more helpful than sequestering and locking down and becoming stagnant in the fear and then letting the fear rule. But the next part of that is, if I'm sharing space with them, I have to be fluid. I have to be fluid. This is not a one size fits all, what worked yesterday is going to work today experience. So I have to develop my hybrid nature, and I have to be willing to work on my own stuff with worry productively. And at the same time, I have to continue to communicate. Communication is everything. And so each day is a check-in. Each day is becoming more and more in tune with and connecting with the needs of both, and not getting locked in stone and not carving it and say, okay, this is what we're going to do from now on. We have to become fluid as things change and evolve and progress. And is that a definitive written in stone answer? No. And if somebody tried to give you that, I would say run in the other direction. But I would say trust your own instincts. Feel what you need to feel. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth faster, so that you don't waste time lingering in this depletion of worry, but you transmute or create an alchemical experience with the worry, and you focus on how much you love and appreciate one another. That could be more healing than any other tangible thing that you might do.
I love that. Yeah. I love, it's such an interesting thing to think about, that concept that you brought up. It's happening for you. It is such a different way to look at things, that it's happening for me versus to me, or it's happening, the thing that always comes up in my mind is, you know what always happens to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and whenever I'm talking to my clients, I go, there's one common thread in this, then it's you.
Right.
So maybe it's not to you, it's for you in some sort of way. But I also feel like a lot of people have trouble. A lot of resistance is, oh yeah, that's a great idea, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sure, yeah, that's easy to say, but right? What are some of your guys' thoughts in regards to, I mean, being intentional is obviously a choice. I think, again, I've always loved the concept of choice. Choice is, for me, it's one of the most interesting things in life, all the different choices we have. But in particular, with the choice of how am I going to look at this? How am I choosing to look at the current situation? And my curiosity for you guys is because, well, first of all, I work with a lot of young people, and I find with young people, it's actually quite easy for them to make sense of this, in particular with teenagers. I know that for them, often it's the first time they've ever heard that concept. I get to choose how I'm going to perceive these things in my life. I really get to choose it, because usually it's more, they're being told, oh, you just need to do this. Oh, you just need to. And that is such a frequent thing that said, oh, look, you just need to be more, you just need to not worry. You just need to do this. But I think it's a very different concept to say, I'm going to be intentional with what I'm doing. It's not that I just need to do anything, and who's to say what I need or do not need to do, but it is a choice. And I guess my question for you guys is, what do you think are some elements to this for people who are sort of in that, yeah, that sounds great, but place, to make things a little more palpable, to make things.
Yeah, you don't need to do anything. I subscribe to the idea that these are not right or wrong decisions. They're just decisions. And so what I find interesting within my own life and my own world is I have operated from crisis mentality. So I don't shift behavior until I get the caged animal in the corner, and then there's no other alternative but to surrender my bloodied knuckled grip of control and lean into something different. How do you forecast that for another? You don't. You can toss it out as a principle, just as you can toss it out as a lifeline, but you can't make someone pick it up and try it. The best that we can do is, rather than being the sage on the stage, is we just live the message, and trust that when people are backed into their metaphoric corners, that they too will remember or link into something that's going to help them.
I love that.
But to concentrate on what's going to make them embody it, I've driven myself crazy over the years trying to do that. And then I realized you can't. All that you can do is just throw the lifeline out. You can't be attached to whether or not someone accepts it.
Sure. Pam, you were saying?
Yeah, I love listening to what comes after but.
Right. Yeah. One of our clients, and actually a friend, more like a family member, said, if you say but, then you aren't listening or contemplating. But Pam, you talk about how you like the after but.
Yeah. Well, usually it's probably true there, the contemplation isn't on what you're saying, it's what's going on inside of them. So after the but is normally what their truth is for them in that moment. And so that's why I like to hear what that is, because that's what they probably want to feel heard about as well.
Well, as somebody too who's been for many years working with people, and I'm sure often I think something that from you I have very much adopted in my life is these limiting beliefs that we have. I like that term, limiting belief, because it is something where I think if my concern is helping someone else, and it's like you said, David, I love that. Don't be the the sage on the stage to a group of actors, to all of these people who were once and currently thespians. And but it is so true, and believe me, that's been a tussle for this guy for a long time, who really wants to fix. And you want to know the most fun challenge with that has been my amazing wife, who is this extremely strong, just brilliant human being who the last thing she needs is someone who's a fixer. So that's been a really good life lesson for me, is trying to figure out how to do that. But Pam, when you talk about after somebody says, but I'm curious for you though, if somebody were to ask you, what are some things that I could do in regards to, like, I just feel like, yeah, I want to do that, but, and whatever, this is sort of, what are some thoughts on that for someone who is having a lot of difficulty, maybe with this current experience, or just in general, not wanting to believe in something more, or connect with something more, or be open to something more?
Well, even the fact that they're closed down is indicative of something. I think that it's about asking curious questions. So even if somebody says, it's a good idea, but, I've tried that before, or, like, it's those things that come right after that are going to help you with where you want to go next with them. And it's not about where I say it in that way, but it's really about finding out, what is it that they're trying to find out? If they really are saying, I want some help with this, but everything you give them, is being pushed away, then do they really want help? Or what is it that they really want? Or
Right.
are they just resisting? I loved what David said, kicking and screaming and bloodied. I've been there many times myself too. But even that might be purposeful. But it's really about, if I'm curious with the person that's talking to me, they're going to get curious too. We often don't teach ourselves how to listen to ourselves that way. We do a lot of talking to ourselves, but not a lot of listening.
Yeah. Well, in regards to listening to yourself, Brittany, obviously you're somebody who works a lot with the body, and with yoga, what are some of the things for you as a yoga instructor that you feel like, because I know something that always comes to mind with me with yoga, because I am that person that wants to, like, I want to make it work.
Yeah.
Like yoga, that's like, I can't tell you how many times where they've been like, just come back to your breath. Like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, I can get it. Like, that's not the idea though. And
Right.
So in regards to yoga and that practice, how do you think what are some of your thoughts on that with this?
Well, we were talking about cognitive behavioral therapy, and so many therapists and healers and helpers are incorporating yoga and incorporating meditation, because stress really does have a physiological effect on us. When we're in worry, when we're in stress, our stress hormones are elevated, our body is tense, and it's really easy to be in that spinning place of the mind. So, I mean, really, it's interesting because I worked in a facility for the treatment of eating disorders that were pretty severe. And we laid on our backs and located where our body was touching the floor. So when it comes to all this emotional stuff that we're going through and worry in the mind, just even sitting down and feeling your points of contact with the floor, lying down, feeling your breath, as simple as that. It doesn't have to be, you know, crazy balancing poses or anything like that. But just feeling into your body and getting connected with your felt senses does wonders for that monkey mind and for that worry. So, you know, it's different for different people. Some days I want to walk around the neighborhood. Some days I want to, you know, do a plank pose and really do the kind of yoga that you would want to do. But then other times when I'm feeling a big emotion, for that to move through me, it requires some stillness. And I think it's important that we're able to process our emotions in that way right now. If we have a lot of anger one day or sadness, that we can let it wash through, so that we can release it. And always on the other side, there's going to be some relief with that. So that's been helping me, and that's been helping some of the people that I work with. And it's not uncommon, you know, once you get into your body and move it or stretch deeply, for feelings to come up, because it is all really connected. So sometimes that's a really great vehicle for people to actually be with what they're feeling, to get there physically. So, yeah.
I think it is interesting, the body and the connection with the body and the mind and the spirit and all of these things, how they are interconnected, and even just with the movement of the body. And this was so with the Zoom sessions, it's a very interesting world because we are in this virtual world now. But for me, being I would say a fairly physical coach, right? I'm not like the coach who sits on a chair typically and just, you know, I mean, there's more physicality to it. I will say, number one, I incorporated, so we did these classes this week, to let everyone else out there know we did these classes, and which actually they were so popular. We're going to be doing a whole nother week of them, and we're doing spring break for adults. So we're basically doing spring break 2 so we're doing these adult classes now, which is awesome. I'll be teaching one, Dexter will be doing one. So anyway, but with that, it is an interesting world to be all of us on this screen. So I had reached out to these 3 wonderful panelists and asked what some of the ideas they had to sort of help me through that process. And I'll tell you what, I used the quote to close one of the classes, the Einstein quote, David, to close and open the class. Pam, when you talked about letting them go and choosing to reflect on those that serve your goals, we got very much into all of that, and when all of these things are coming at us, looking where there's so much, and as much as we want to sit there and just be with our thoughts, it's almost like we can't, like there's just too many things. So this concept of consciously letting go of some of the chaos that's transpiring. And then I also did the lion's breath. So I incorporated all of your stuff, but it just kind of got me thinking about this being a little more cooped up. What are some things that you guys think with in being intentional with this? You guys have brought up the word curiosity a lot, being curious with this, listening to this, and just kind of, and just what does this mean? With curiosity, with being intentional with curiosity, I would be curious to hear what some of your takes are on that, how to be more intentional with our curiosity, and just sort of what that means to you to be curious. Because I know for me as an acting coach, it's huge. But I would be very curious to hear your perspectives on that.
I think curiosity heals. I think when I can be genuinely curious about why I do the things that I do, why something catapults me into a feeling of fear, if I'm curious about that, then I've stepped out of the judgmental seat and I've sat down with myself and to have a dialogue. Or I've allowed myself in that intentionality and compassion to actually be able to hear or to connect with whatever internal theme that I'm holding. I call them themes, and there are universal ones that we share. We all share the theme of, I don't have enough time. And I go, there's actually no truth to that. It's just that I've said it and bought into it so much that that internal theme now manifests itself over and over again. I have a theme of not being good enough, or to this or to that. I've thought it and said it so much that it becomes my norm. And so the outer world mirrors that back and justifies that particular theme. So if I can be curious as to, I wonder what theme is being activated right now. The theme of missing out, the theme of things not returning to normal, that whatever that theme might be or that fear might be, if I can be curious about it, then that's a really beautiful inward forum to be able to dissect and look at and maybe replace some of that old thought patterning with something new.
I love that. Yeah, I love I love how you phrased it, bought into those themes, because I think everyone can relate to that. And it made me think about something I heard about self-love being a discipline, which really resonated with me, because it has to do with the thoughts and the themes that we do buy into, or that we do choose to have. And I've been curious about, how can I treat myself kindly in this curiosity right now, in all this time that I have and space to be with what's coming up, because I know everything came to a halt for all of us, and things are coming up for all of us, things to look at, to turn over, and to choose, whether we want to continue to buy into that theme or that feeling or that thought, or if we want to, and discipline can seem like a harsh word, but I kind of liked the way that it was framed, as far as, can I be disciplined in being a little kinder to myself as I'm curious?
I really love that. Can I be disciplined in being a little kinder with myself as I'm being curious? And I think that's, but I think that's so important too. I love the concept too. Like, I like that concept of theme. I'm rereading, I think for like the third time, the Four Agreements, and I love the Toltec sort of concept of a dream, right? And when Don Miguel Ruiz talks about not taking things personally, and with my actors, I explain, I go, gosh, guys, for anyone to understand that, it's, as an actor, it's so important. And it's interesting because a definition I give to my actors is, you're telling a story with as much truth as you can while having as much fun as you can. I find that's a fairly simple way of explaining acting, and it's true. But if we think about that as a story, right, it's all this story, because the theme, right, the first place I go is like, what's the theme? Like, what is the genre, right? And it's sort of like what I love about that concept is if you phrase it as though it's a theme, it becomes less, it is solid. It's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. And I love that concept of also malleability, right? And it's being able to shift and shape. But in addition to that, this concept of what we're seeing out there is just someone else's story, right? I mean, there are real things that are happening, but our perception of it is our story. I told David, I think I was telling David, or was it you, Pam, in the Instagram Live, how I've been watching a lot of news, and I just did a full 180, and I was just listening to Eckhart Tolle. Yeah. I was listening to listening to his book, The Power of Now, and then just listening to some of his lectures, and just what a wonderful shift it is, and the feeling I've had, and I can feel that difference. I can feel my theme shifting and changing, but I'm intrigued by sort of that whole story that we have, that we tell, right? I mean, this is a story that we're living in, right? It's whatever story we want it to be, right? And it's not about what's happening. It's about how we're telling the story. And I think that's an interesting perspective on it. We have a question here that is okay. So it's a sort of long question, but we'll just kind of play with it. How do you manage meeting people where they are in this situation, as everyone does handle it differently? And she added on, and this is a client of mine who I absolutely love to death. Some friends and family have incredible perspective and see this as an opportunity to see what's important and hold space for one another. But others are struggling and really in their own personal struggle, but it's sometimes hard to understand their struggle when it seems so small in comparison to the major things that some are going through. So meeting someone in the middle, that concept of meeting someone, obviously we have our own stories, but if my story is like a foreign language to you, then we might want to find a way for our stories to make sense. We might need a translator, I guess.
We might need a translator.
Yeah. So what are your guys' thoughts on that in regards to having people that are over
everybody's on the same path. They're just at different points on the path. I had a teacher once tell me that there are some people who don't know about movies. There are some people who are going online to see what movies are playing. There are some people who are standing at the box office buying their ticket to go into a movie. There are some people who are at the concession stand. There are some people who are in the middle of the movie, and there are some people who are exiting the movie. But everywhere along those narratives, there's all one intention, that eventually everyone will somehow become aware of the movie. And so one point in that path is not better than the other. Everybody's just in their particular cycle of feeling, emotion, clarity, and awareness. And so those who might be exiting the movie can offer something compassionate to those who don't even know that the movie exists, but not view themselves as better than, but just being on that shared path.
Yeah, I think that you don't have to understand, you don't have to know where somebody's at in order to care about where they're at. So, caring about the person and not judging where they're at is kind of what I heard David say. And in the question, like not understanding or judging that it might seem trivial to you. It is a place where you're not really meeting them where they're at. You don't have to necessarily understand. You just simply have to care about them in that moment. That'll shift it. That intention of caring about them will shift
So just
on what to say.
so like if you're going to say tangibly, so let's say let's tell a story. So let's say I don't want to name a relative because then I feel like one of them is going to think it's that. But let's say my
friend.
My friend, my friend is very much just talking about how bad it is, and there's and like I can't live like this, or we can't live like this, or they're just kind of going down that path, and they are, let's say, like David said, they're not even aware there's a movie happening at all. What do you think are some ways? And by the way, again, like I don't know if there's any. I think what I like about David's thing, none of that's right or wrong. Like if you're at the concession stand, hey, you're getting popcorn, great, that's fine. For you right now, it's like, and we're all in these different places. But if we think about it from kind of a tangible place, what are your thoughts about how to, I know what you said, Pam, shifting what your intention is there. So what do you think might be something good if I'm in that situation? I know I'm going to be talking to this friend. I love this friend. What might be some ways that we could go into that intentionally that could be helpful to ourselves, maybe?
You just ask them question like, what do you need right now? Do you want to feel better about this? Where are you headed? Do you want to simply be heard about how you're feeling?
What Pam said, there's power in saying, tell me more. Mm-hmm. Tell me more, rather than being a classic corrective listener.
Exactly.
And corrective listening is when somebody tells you something and you go, but think about all the things that are working, so that just discounts that person where they are. Just listen without the need to correct their feelings.
I love that. Yeah. I know for me, my person will remain nameless, but I know that that's what he wants to hear from me is tell me more. I'm here. I love you. And I know what's helped me also is cultivating my own kind of inner state before I interact with someone I know is going to kind of need to be heard that way, so that it's not me absorbing maybe like the state that they're in. It's that I can be there and hold true to where I want to be on the inside, and still be a space for them, a safe space for them to express and be heard. So just David, you talked about it earlier, just taking care of our own stuff, our own selves in that way has really been important for me, because it's easy if we're all connected to acting, so I'm sure we all have an empathetic quality to us. So being able to have that space that is permeable but not overwhelming to the listener, I guess, has been helpful for me.
Yeah, I think that is such a great thing. What you said though too is, so often we go into a conversation or whatever it is without any intention at all, and then just sort of allow our reaction to be sort of more reactionary. I know that for me, it is such a wonderful thing when I can set that intention and then go into this situation already kind of in this place. It's almost like we talk about with acting, your moment before. And if you don't have a moment before, it's really hard to bring any truth to the scene because you didn't establish anything beforehand. And that's what it makes me think of, right? I go into the situation and it's just like, I'm going in, which is even worse as an actor, with preconceived notions of this is how it's going to be. I'm going to do the scene just like this. And you're like, no, don't. And that's kind of, I think about that. All right. I'm going to let them know how they need to be. But I love that concept of asking questions, and intentionally getting yourself to the place you need to be if you are going to engage with that conversation. There's an interesting question here. Sometimes I feel like there is a pressure that with so much of this downtime we have, in caps, have to create, or we have to be productive. What are some ways to not feel guilty when there are days you just don't necessarily feel motivated?
It's almost like I can't wait to hear what the panelists have to say about that. You know, I'm one of those folks. I could have asked that question, but it's interesting because the past couple days I've been just really listening to myself when I don't want to, you know, when I'm focusing on that have to thing, but actually there's a louder part of me that says, you know, go sit down and have a cup of tea, you know, go read a book, go meditate, go outside for a walk. You know, that's so loud, but then there's this other part of me that's yelling at myself, no, you have to do this, you know, this is the perfect time. I think that's what that person is saying. But what I really began to understand is that for the intention of serving who I want to be and how I want to feel, I've got to listen to that part of myself that, you know, is asking me to do the things that for me sometimes feel challenging. For me, it's sometimes challenging to sit and have a cup of tea and stare outside. But there's a lot of richness when I was doing that I would have missed out on.
I like that. Thoughts,
Yeah.
David, Brittany?
Well, for me, I've really enjoyed being in this space and giving myself the freedom to continue to be curious about, you know, if I really do want to do those same things that I did before. Do I really want to stay on the same track of who I think I am from before? We have this space and this time and this freedom to ask ourselves how we want to change, I guess, not in a pressureful way, but in a way of like, hey, you have the choice to go back to this thing or not go back to this thing that you were doing before, whether it's an activity or a group or a job. I mean, obviously that's a different story for a lot of us, but I just mean, I think it's helped me to kind of flip that on its head and say, why don't you take this time to get in touch with what really matters to you now? Because we're changeable beings, and I don't think I think we're meant to evolve. So I guess maybe how do I want to evolve in a way that feels really good to me in this moment in time has been helpful.
David?
I would echo what Brittany said, because I was writing a newsletter today to the people on my list, and I thought, isn't it funny? This is like our tomb time, to borrow a coming up Easter idea, is everybody's in their own metaphoric tomb. And when we emerge, are we going to go back to the same identities and the same habits and the same things? Are we going to allow ourselves to be somehow transformed into a new expression? Everybody knows the mythology of the phoenix rising from the ashes, right? But what a lot of people don't know in that story is that the bird, the phoenix, actually built the fire. It built the fire that it was going to fly into, the fire where it will be consumed and the identity of that bird will die. And I'm a huge advocate for letting identities die. Because if I'm going to say or proclaim that I'm an evolutionary being, then I have to be very fluid, and I have to be very curious as to what identities have I collected and do I want to hold on to and protect, rather than building these fires and letting those identities shed so that I can see what's next. And that's just me. And that's the way that I choose to live. But I see this as a global fire where everybody, the planet, has the ability to fly into this self-generated fire and be consumed so that we don't go back. Because in my opinion, what was doesn't work. The division and the separatism and the class distinction and all of those kinds of things are something that's so heavily saturated in our consciousness, and for us to become just a little bit more exposed to kindness and to thinking about other people and compassion. And I walk around my neighborhood and I see people leaving things on the curb with little signs that say, take what you need. And kids painting rocks with words like compassion and kindness and saying, take a rock. And when do we take the time to act like that as a society, as the norm, rather than because it's some special occasion? So when I come out of the tomb of this, I don't want to go back in. I don't want to go back in. I don't want to live from preservation energy, where I'm having to preserve an identity. I'm having to preserve something, because to me, ultimately, what coming out of the tomb represents is freedom. And I'd rather practice freedom. But that's me, and I'm crazy. So.
I have a feeling a lot of people actually connected.
Yeah, I was thinking, I did. Thank you very much. I was
actually
thinking,
Hannah Avery real quick said light bulb moment.
Yeah. I think, the thing that I was listening when you were saying that was, it's true. We're all going to have this experience of before COVID and after COVID. And so, now's the opportunity to let go of the before COVID, which is what I could see I was practicing in the past couple of days.
Yeah.
BC.
BC. That's amazing.
Yeah. Man, it works.
Quick, copyright it.
Yeah. That to me, David, is something that I was kind of playing with the other day, where coming out of this, what if it's almost I was playing with it a little different. I was like, what if I want to go back in the tomb? What if we come out and we go, oh, I kind of feel like that way, I liked that way, and it's really interesting. So for me, I mean, the amount of time I spent with my family, and the amount of time my exercise has been in a really good place. And there's a lot of things that have been really special in this time. And I actually kind of had this moment, it was really weird, where I got a little bit of worry about coming out of it. Right. And it's so interesting, where I wonder, my cousin Jake, who I just absolutely love, we hadn't seen each other for years. He's an entrepreneur. He is like a travel expert. He has this company called Transformational Travel, and it's all about just, traveling, not just for the sake of going somewhere, but really like having these. And David, I mean, gosh, yeah, you would understand. You would love him, actually. I should connect you guys. He had sent me something, and the author was talking about looking at this from sort of a place of a dark hole or from a place of a portal. And it's right, they're both just these holes that you can go into. But this sort of dark hole is like just going into this abyss. Or what if this hole is actually a portal to something new? and something better, right? I mean, typically when I think of portals, of course I go to like Quantum Leap or something, like something fun. And, I never think of a portal as a bad thing. And so this concept of this being a portal, and then my next question becomes, and this is, I'm curious for you guys, is this actually like, is there a benefit of this going longer? Because it's like this, it's almost like, it's like we're slow roasting, and it's like, hold on, you're not ready yet. Like, so it's like the universe's way of just sort of putting us in this pressure cooker, and then until the chicken just totally falls off the bone and is wonderfully delicious.
That's surrender, right?
Well, that's, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, one of my teachers is Ram Dass, and he tells the story of when he would go to visit prisoners in San Quentin. And there was a distinction between going to those who were on death row, and he would go and he would teach meditation classes to the prisoners who were on death row. And because of their sentencing, they had been, life had pushed them into such a corner that all of their melodramas dissolved. And the only thing that was really left for them was internal freedom, mind freedom. And he would describe these meditations with these prisoners on death row as being like he was in a monastery. He said the light would just shoot out of their beings, and it was some of the most profound things they had ever had. But then he would go over into the cell blocks that were for the lifers. They weren't on death row, but they were lifers, and the experience would be completely different. There, they didn't care, or they would be sarcastic, or they wouldn't want to attend, and they didn't really care about what it was that he was offering. And he said, I had this paradoxical thought for a moment that what if someone on death's row got moved to the cell block of a lifer? Would that same enlightenment and that same connection be there? Or is it because they've been pushed into this metaphoric corner where they finally surrendered and let go of all of their melodrama and story? And I thought about that. I was just like, wow. Because you can personalize that. You can, like you were saying, Erik, that if I wanted to look at this as a death sentence of my identity, then I could truly open myself up to what freedom looks like, or try to connect with the feeling of what freedom for me in terms of my creative expression, in terms of my family, in terms of how I want to be in the world for the remainder of the years on the planet. Those are all the kinds of things that I could contemplate and consider and be open to. But if I'm just focused on life sentence, or what do I do with my life after I get out of this, then I think we're missing the opportunity. It's like coming out of one tomb and just going back into another tomb. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, very much so. I love the concept of the death sentence of identity in order to have freedom. And the surrender, I mean, that's been something that I've been thinking a lot about. The surrender experiment. I don't know if somebody had asked, what are some books that we would recommend? And I think
highly recommend that one.
Yeah, I love the surrender experiment, and then of course the Untethered Soul. And I think David, you've spoken about that book quite a bit. I feel like, right? And a lot you'd referenced it a lot. It's obviously a book that had a lot of impact on you.
When I was at SLCA, I do a lot of summer book clubs, and that was one of our summer books.
Yeah. Michael Singer, if we were talking about surrender, that's somebody that comes to mind, and that concept of surrendering, but not looking at surrender as this. I think surrender in our society is synonymous with weakness or being powerless or what have you. it's a negative, it's this negative kind of concept. But for me, the idea of surrender, where what I think about is surrendering to whatever is coming my way. To me, it's like the concept of, if you have a wave that hits you and you just go with the wave, right? One of the first things you don't do if you're surfing and you're getting pummeled and like you can't get up is try to move. You just let it take you. You surrender to it, so you don't exude all this energy, and you let it go, and then you come to the surface. But I think too, we just have so much trouble with the concept of surrendering to things societally, and so that's something I think that will be fun for people to play with, that concept of just surrendering to whatever is happening in this moment. So yeah, that's really wonderful. Here's a question, and this is something, it's very specific, and it's someone that Pam, you and I both know, but she has noticed that she's been having a lot of body pain, body flare-ups, emotionally and physically, being in this isolation with so little distraction. Could any of you kind of speak on how to move through some of these moments?
I would say, first off, if it's, pain, body, and feelings and emotions, is, feeling your feelings. And I'd be happy to, if you wanted to provide that my feelings meditation for people, I'm happy to send you that link, because I think that it, being in isolation with no distractions allows the signals, as David would say, and maybe even some triggers to show up. Like life is going to show us ourselves. And in line with what we were talking about, probably some of what is going to be good to let go of. It's not good to hang on to the pain in your body. Good to let that go. It's probably showing up as an invitation to be let go of. So it's about not trying to figure out what the pain, the reason for it or the why behind it, because Eckhart Tolle does that, and he kind of has a process in practicing the power of now about how to let that move through your body.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
I mean, I would just normalize that for you, that you're not the only one going through that right now. There's so many people dealing with insomnia and physical manifestations of just what we're going through collectively. It's a legitimate kind of effect of overwhelm and trauma. And that being said, yes, do the things Pam said, but also you're not alone, and that's very normal.
Yeah, that's great. This question has come up actually a couple of times. So these books, some people have, what books would you guys recommend? We've put a few in there, and I can just kind of type them out so people have them in the or in the chat. Like, if you're going to pick a book or two, is there something that really, is there something that you gift to a lot of people?
I am now reading Glennon Doyle's new book, Untamed. It is phenomenal about everything we're talking about.
Okay.
My go-to right now is called The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. I read it over and over again. It's kind of daily meditations on all the stuff we're talking about. And he'll do a little writing with a quote and then sort of a guided meditation for you to, it's always very simple and pretty profound.
Lovely. David, I know you actually put a few here. So would you say those are Grist for the Mill, Ram Dass, and then Power of Now?
Grist for the Mill, my buddy, Ram. Anything by Ram Dass and Eckhart Tolle. There's so much out there.
Yeah, I mean, I had referenced Four Agreements that's one that I love.
I also think Brene Brown's new podcast is really good for people who like to listen
Okay.
to something.
Yes, I think Brene Brown in general. Oh, you know something that was really lovely is Tim Ferriss. His interview with Jack Cornfield. Are you guys all familiar with him?
Yes.
Yes, that was a wonder. That actually came out right when things started really kind of, it was a lot of fear that just kind of, it was like sort of like we weren't sure what was going to happen. And then it was just, I felt like there was this moment of, wait a minute, everything's getting shut down. And it at least doesn't feel like, it felt like what was yesterday will not be today. What is today won't be tomorrow. It feels like we at least are getting 2 or 3 days of where, okay, there's, that we're not getting, it's, I don't know. It kind of feels like, all right, so there's less getting thrown at me. I don't know how to explain it other than that. But that podcast was just a wonderful palate cleanser, kind of in the midst of everything. Like, yes, thank you, Jack. Thank you for bringing me there and all of that. Okay, so this is a fun question. So this is from a guy who is a senior in college and is an actor, and he asked for advice for people who have been displaced in that they are now in places where they have to be. For example, he hasn't lived at home in years. He's now back in this space where he doesn't necessarily feel like he has the permission or the space to explore and experiment as an artist. And he said a lot of his friends are in this same sort of boat where they're all back at home and they haven't been there forever. And now they never know when they're going to leave and they can't leave. And I think that's a really interesting thing, right? You went from full kind of freedom being a senior in college, at least from my recollection of being a senior in college. I didn't feel like there was many things that I wasn't, well, there was things I wasn't allowed to do, but nothing that I felt like I couldn't do. And so what are you guys' thoughts on that for people that are sort of in this new space where they're still wanting to, I don't know, tap into that creativity?
Well, the irony is it's not a new space, it's an old space.
Right.
And a new identity is trying to fit into an old space. So what I would suggest if he's able to hear this is to loosen up trying to figure out how to get out of something and to settle into where he is in the moment, and maybe shift the focus off of himself for that moment and find a way to serve. Maybe it's serving his family, maybe it's serving neighbors, anything right now that's a little off of the myopic introspective what's going to happen to me kind of thing into I'm going to lay all that down right now and just focus on being of service and watch what is birthed from that, because there's a phrase that says your energy is where you last left it. So I never fully understood what that was, but if the energy of being at home was this is confining and I got to get out of here, and now you're back home, well, you picked up that same energy and you're just moving in the same wavelength of that. And so if you want to shift that experience so that you can be anywhere and not be defined or confined by home, then he has the opportunity, we all have the opportunity to shift the energy. You know, I used to hate going to the post office and the lines in the post office. And then I noticed that without my energies where I last left it. So the last time I was pissed off at being at the post office, the next time I show up, I just pick that energy right back up, and there I am again, and I get to continue to be pissed off. But if I stand in the line and I go, wow, isn't this amazing that, you know, I can lick this thing or put this thing on an envelope and it travels to who knows where. Look at all of the graphics and all the posters on the wall. Oh my God, look at the design of this building. If I can move into some kind of appreciation for where I'm at in the now, I've shifted the energy in that moment and I'm not leaving it there. And so our energy is always where we left it, which is just another way of saying, I'm gonna pick up the same action of the same theme unless I change the energy of the theme.
Yeah, it's so important what you're saying, because the thing is it's not something you can necessarily will with your mind. You have to remind yourself of who you are. You know, like he's got to remember that he's not emotionally, he's not whoever he was when he left. He is who he is now. And so if he can match himself, his reminder of that with his feelings, all of that, you know, and looking around, putting himself in the present moment. So I think it is, those specific things will help him.
Yeah. I would say also, just as an actor, I remember my acting teacher in college looking at us and saying, "You don't know anything." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Yes, I do. And what he was saying was that we are just starting to collect a life experience that is going to make you make you a better actor. So just to offer that from an acting perspective, that what you're going through is going to serve you in some way, in some scene, in some project that you do. And just like everything that you experience will. So I know I used to get frustrated when people said that to me, but I get it now.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. That's really wonderful. Yeah, I think it's David, you said something there, and all three of you kind of touched on it. But in regards to this situation, appreciation. That is something that I love. Appreciation, I have found I am very intentionally focusing on that right now, to the extent where, and I don't know if I mentioned this, if I was talking to one of you, I have on 3 specific occasions sat for what would have been at least a minute or 2 just staring at my wife and my daughter playing at dinner, and just the love that is there between the two of them, and with no other intention than just being with that. And I think it's such a fun, how about that timing? My daughter's now literally walking down, making her way here. She was given some very specific instructions in regards to not being too loud. And there you go, David, I put it out there, and then she popped in, and there's a dog here now too. Yes, Georgia. Okay. So this is where we are now.
No.
So
I want to do doggy.
yeah, I know she's a little crazy. Georgia. Go Georgia. Go Georgia. But it is that focus on that appreciation with it. And what we do get to have in this tomb. What's wonderful about this tomb. Have you guys found that you've become more aware of what's really important to you in this time? Like any realization specifically in this? And this we'll kind of close with this, like if there's anything.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm with my parents in North Carolina, and I would never have had the opportunity to spend this much time with them. And it's made me remember just that life is precious, and it's a beautiful opportunity to, we have deck time every day where we go outside and there's woods behind the house and we sit and we eat dinner and spend actual quality time with each other. And that's meant a lot to me. It's meant, that's been a really beautiful thing that's come out of this time for me. So.
Yeah, I think for me, definitely the realization of, you know, at a deeper level of how much I love people, how much I love being with people, and that I need far less downtime than I thought I ever did.
Right. Yeah. It's funny how each of these are sort of, there seems to be a common theme here, but even that, what Brittany said with deck time, like I love it, like just the concept of deck time sounds so peaceful. I see a tree, I see woods, I see no TVs, I see family, you know, or I see that's anyway, I could see your deck time there in my mind.
That's it. Got it.
David, what about you?
I've looked at the collective panic of people who are self-proprietors and wondering where it's all going to come from, and having a little bit of that myself as a self-proprietor. So I've played with that and just said, how much can I give? So for weeks, I've given free sessions to people. I write people. I've been doing a series every day in April on my Facebook pages about a mindful act a day that you can do, and just freely giving from my heart without any agenda or wanting anything in return, and becoming curious as to how things will take care of themselves, and letting it be an experiment and letting it be an act of trust. And you know what? From that pure intent of just being of service and wanting to see people succeed, everything that I need comes when I need it. And so I would love to be able to keep the energy of that alive. We all have a lot that we can give to one another. So
yeah, it is interesting. I know for me, this idea of giving in a time where we are also, you know, obviously as a business, we look at all of this and there are these financial elements to it. There's no doubt about it. But simultaneously, the amount of giving that I just want to give has for sure increased exponentially in this time. Pam, I know you said you were giving away free coachings. It is sort of interesting, right? A lot of us self-proprietors, small businesses, we're in this place where we say, okay, how can I give? How can I give more and give more and give? And that's, wow. I mean, I know one of my, a book I really liked was Start Something That Matters by Blake McCoskey, who started Tom's Shoes, and as somebody who was at the time starting something that mattered. But this concept of the more you give, the more you live. And I love that sort of the more you give, the more you live. And what a wonderful time to give, because I think there's a lot of people that would enjoy that. Mm-hmm. So we are coming to the end here. And Pam, you had a little meditation to take us out with. Okay.
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 Okay, Venice.
How cute is this little shirt? It's a little Georgia. It says home. Do you want to do a meditation? Yeah. Okay. So
yeah. So what I wanted to say about, you know, first is that feelings are especially during this time, and when, you know, a lot is going on, we have a lot of feelings that are surfacing. And I think if we begin to see feelings as simply energy that just needs to move through you, rather than trying to figure out what it means or what you need to do with it, but just allow feelings to move through you, that will put you in a more creative, curious place and be able to follow through on your intentions. So what I'd like to do is just guide us through a couple feelings. We'll just do two, so that you can have an experience of what that looks like. So go ahead and close your eyes and just focus on your breath just for a moment so you can get focused inward. And just recall feeling mad or frustrated or annoyed, one of those feelings. Usually triggered from the outside, but has a sensation in your body. So when you recognize that feeling in your body, just place your hand wherever that feeling originates. And as soon as you do that, begin to, with your breath and your intention, give that feeling a color and begin to just watch it move all the way down through and out the bottom of your feet and all the way up through and out the top of your head. Continuing to focus on the movement, not the story. And then once you feel like that feeling has moved through and out, you can remove your hand and just notice your body. You might feel more alive, more tingly. This might be a time where you get curious, listen to yourself, what you might want to do or say. And then I always like to end this with, think of a time when you felt happy or content or appreciative. And as soon as you recognize that feeling, place your hand on the part of your body where that originates. And giving that feeling a color with your breath and with your intention, let that feeling move too. All the way down through and out the bottom of your feet and up through and out the top of your head. Moving your hand when it feels complete, and then noticing your body, a lightness, a joy that's always there. And then you can bring yourself back to this moment.
That was wonderful, Pam.
Thanks for the opportunity.
While that was happening, this little one almost fell asleep as I was tickling her arm. And she was there with us through that little experience. Well, I thank you, all three of you, for being. Tickle your head. Okay. I thank you guys all for being here with us. Is there anywhere that people can find you? If you want to just let them know, Pam, the best place is Your Infinite Life, right?
Yeah, yourinfinitelifeonline.com, or look us up on Facebook, Instagram.
Cool.
And if you're anybody out there, we are offering free coaching sessions too. So.
David? Oh, you're muted. Oh, I got you. There we go. Hold on. You're still muted.
DavidAult.com, AULT. And Also, my foundation, Kaleidoscope Child Foundation.
Oh, what a
That's
wonderful found. Yeah. Kaleidoscope Child Foundation. Please give that a look, everyone. It's so wonderful. And I'm sure they can find out about it through davidault.com as well, right? Beautiful. And Brittany?
wildfloweryogaatl.com, or if you search Wildflower Yoga ATL on Instagram or Facebook. And I'm offering free yoga for actors every Tuesday, 12 to 1 via Zoom. So you just have to email me or message me and I'll send you the link. And then I'm also doing 30 minutes on Facebook Live every Monday of meditation and yoga. So that's free as well.
I love it. Well, you can find out more about us at catapultacting.com, and we're going to continue doing these wonderful free events. Actually, next week, we are, for the very first time, going to have all of our coaches together and do like a virtual coaches roundtable so our clients can get all of our perspectives on the industry and our stories, and it's going to be really fun for everyone to kind of get to know the coaching backbone of Catapult. So that's going to happen next week. Thank you all so much. This is being recorded, so we will have this available as well for people if they want to watch it. And it was a pleasure for me. These free forums have really become one of my favorite things. So putting it on the list of wonderful elements of the forced seclusion. And everyone out there, enjoy your tombs. I don't think I ever thought so positively of my body being in a tomb.
I agree.
As I stated in the beginning, you find a way to make spirituality and life just palpable and entertaining. And so all of you, Brittany, Pam, David, thank you so much. I love you guys. And be well, be healthy, be happy, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.